Of Ahsoka on Disney Plus in 2023 was truly a nexus in the Star Wars fandom. Gathered around our screens every Tuesday night, going to see into the next chapter of Ahsoka's story post Return of the Jedi, we'd scramble to social media to speculate about what would happen next. This weekly unfolding brought many of us, myself and Will included, together. One such interaction was none other than Ashton Sherritt, a musical genius who would contribute his expertise as we paved the way into the story, and it truly spoke not just to myself, but to so many others in the community. Now, almost 2 years later, with several thousand followers under his belt, one of which is Sam Witwer, by the way, Ashton is now not just a mere musician, but a beacon and force for good.
When Star Wars fans across the globe think of what the franchise means to them, the word that often comes to mind to describe that galaxy is magical. And without the foundational pillar that is its music, Star Wars would be missing the glue holding it together. Our guest today has the incredible talent of being able to dissect the science and passion of that boundlessly important musical glue. Please welcome to Determined Focused, a guy that we are both massive fans of, Ashton Sherritt.
Dude, you guys, that was such a cool intro. Thank you. It's seriously so awesome to be here.
Always remember.
Will, you actually have a question from our previous guest for Ashton.
Yes, shout out to friend of the pod, Luke's Lightsabers. He was our guest in the last episode. His question specifically, which this might be a hard question for you. What is your favorite theme in all of Star Wars?
Oh man. Yeah, it is a tough question, but I have forced myself to have a quick answer for it. The answer that I come up with, because I mean we could talk about like our top 5, top 10s. My favorite theme is Anakin's theme.
I knew it. I knew that was going to be the answer. Yep.
I know. It's kind of a surprise to some, but that is my favorite theme. And the reason that it's my favorite theme, I had to of all of the amazing themes that we have from Star Wars, I had to try to narrow this down. And my thought process was a couple of different things, but the main reason that Anakin's theme is my favorite is because that's one that I can put on at any time, no matter my emotional state, like Anakin's betrayal. I probably might not put that on if I'm having a really awesome morning, with my daughter.
You're not starting your day with Anakin's dark deeds.
Right. And so I can put that on when I'm having a great day and it's beautiful out. I can put it on whenever I'm feeling sad and alone or emotional. And so that was a huge, thing. I was like, yeah, okay, this checks all of those boxes. But then also it's just absolutely gorgeous from an orchestration standpoint, but also a storytelling standpoint. It's just, I could talk about Anakin's theme all day.
Yeah, I remember a while back you telling me that, and I had a feeling. I was like, is it Anakin's theme? It could be Binary Sunset though. I don't really remember. So I was curious to see what you have to say. But I think for me at least, Anakin's theme truly tells the entire story of Anakin Skywalker in one track, which is just insane to me. And I always reference one of my favorite clips and ties into the intro that we queued up of the connection to the end of Ahsoka with Anakin's Force Ghost, dude, and that little inkling there. I'm just like, oh, it's so good.
Dude, yeah. And not to completely derail this and go down this rabbit hole, but the similarities to with Anakin's theme and the way it's orchestrated and how we have the whole Vader Easter egg, the similarities with that, and also other underscoring of Anakin scenes from the Phantom Menace and Vader's death in Return of the Jedi, just the parallels and similarities, whether purposeful or not, are just mind-blowing and just so cool. And so whenever we got that clip at the end of Ahsoka, it was just oh man, yes, this is the closure that I've been wanting musically, for Anakin, where he's at now. And it was just such a beautiful moment.
I wish I could be inside of your mind when we get to watch new Star Wars for the first time, because I feel like for a lot of people, for most Star Wars fans who, like us, are pretty well versed in a lot of Star Wars lore and content and facts and trivia. That when we're watching new Star Wars for the first time, we're kind of watching with that keen eye of who and what's going to pop up next. But for you, you have this whole other layer of, and for a lot of fans, but you specifically is who I think of when new music is in a show for the first time, and when that music or when those themes start pulling together other themes. I think for me, like my heart and me as a fan, I know what's going on because I'm in tears and I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's doing something to me. But at the end, if somebody was to ask me about it, I'd be like, oh yeah, that was cool. But like I can't dissect the bits and pieces where you're like, oh, and this was specifically from this, and then if you take, it's reversed, and like just your breakdown videos specifically are like incredible. And we've got some other topics when it comes to music, specifically a show that all three of us really enjoyed, had a second season in Andor season 2, which we will be talking about here in a little bit. Grayson, it wouldn't be Determined Focused if we didn't do a ranking of some sort.
We're going to be blind ranking some rebels. We are starting off the cuff. You ready? Leia, Organa.
That's a tough one to start with.
I know.
Oh man, that's not fair. Oh dude, I'm gonna go 2.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
Next up, Han Solo.
Oh man, I'll go 4.
Okay. Luthen Rael.
Oh. You guys. Oh,
you got the 1, the 3, and the 5 left.
Oh crap. Oh man.
This is the most turmoil we have ever put a guest through.
I knew when I made this list,
oh
I was
my
like,
goodness.
This is gonna kill
This is
him.
rough. Oh man, I love Luthen so much. I'm gonna go 1.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, it ain't getting any easier. Cassian Andor.
Oh man, 3.
Okay.
Wow.
So at number 5.
No.
Number 5 is Mon Mothma.
Oh no!
I know, dude. I actually feel bad about this one.
Yeah, I know.
Oh no.
That's unfortunate.
I knew I feel kind of cruel because I was like, I'm gonna just put like Leia and Han in here. It's gonna he's gonna
starting
think it'll
with
be like
Leia was crazy.
Yeah, and then I was like, he's gonna think that Luke is in here or something, and then I'm like, and then I'm just gonna throw in the biggest rebellion ballers of all time.
The number 5 spot is Mon Mothma. At number 4, we have Han Solo. At number 3, we have Cassian Andor, and then at number 2, General Leia Organa. At number 1, Luthen Rael.
It's not fair.
Listen, you got Luthen at 1, so
yeah.
Yeah, that
honestly, Leia at 2 was such a safe way to play that, being that Leia was your first one off. It would be extremely hard if I was there and somebody was like, no matter what the ranking is, if somebody was just like, Leia was the first, I'd be like, how do I not put Leia at 1? Like, what are we talking about?
Right. Yeah.
What specifically, just because so much of that, you went to another place while trying to rank those. What was going through your head for each of those characters?
Yeah, man. With Leia, she's just so brave, and also like such a badass, like diplomatically, but then also like in the thick of it, and like, I don't know, man. And then especially like when we get her as like a little kid, like she has been in this thing and like she knows the stakes. And I mean, all these people know the stakes, but yeah, I don't know, man. Like there's just something about Leia and the fact that she is a prominent figure like in the rebellion throughout the First Order, and like throughout the sequels too. Like that's just like her longevity being such a pillar. I think that's what it was. I was like, okay, like I love Leia, obviously, like for nostalgic reasons, etc. But legitimately, she needs to be up there. Han, I was like, all right, like Han's solid, but like
Yep.
also, I don't even know. It's just like he's gonna have to be lower on this list. You're like,
Han's got a different emotional impact when it comes to the other 4 people on this list.
Yes, and like
Yeah.
motivation wise, right? He has a different
Yeah.
motivation like to him, and I would have placed him at 5 if I had known the full list.
Sure.
Luthen, like he is such a like galactically such a pivotal character from the beginning. Like Leia wouldn't be able to do what she did without Luthen. He, just I don't want to say started this whole thing because that's not exactly accurate, but yeah, like he has to be up there. Cassian too, obviously. Freaking Mon Mothma should have been up there.
Yeah.
I love Mon so much.
If you had to change this list around, what would you switch it to?
I think I would go, wow, this feels so controversial. I would say from 1 to 5, Luthen, Mon.
Leia and Cassian's tough.
Yeah. I guess Leia 3, Cassian 4, Han 5. Like that's such a hard list.
I don't think that's a crazy. Truly, with the blind ranking, like I think you did a pretty bang on job, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that ranking, I kind of agree with. Like, I'm a huge Han Solo guy, but like when you're talking about the heavy hitters of, especially of what it means for the Rebel Alliance and for the change of the galaxy.
Yes.
Han is such of that reluctant hero, and yes, he is massive in the change of the outcome of the galaxy. But when you, and even Cassian as well, like Cassian is so much of his story is him being that reluctant, like, hey, am I going to keep fighting? You know, we've already done so much for the rebellion, we deserve peace, sort of thing. And then, you know, of course, like the moment in season 2 with Bix being like, no, you need in the Force healer, dude. Oh my gosh. Like, it's just,
we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. And so like, I get like Han and Cassian being down there, but then like, this is also going to be kind of maybe a hot take, but I don't think y'all will disagree. Like, I know Luke is kind of the poster boy for the rebellion after the Death Star's destruction, but like, truly, I feel like Leia is more of a face of what the Rebel Alliance is, you know?
Leia is the one in charge. Like she's the one actually running the ship, because you think about the Death Star and like they wouldn't have even been able to get out of the Death Star if it wasn't for Leia being like, no, you two goons are going to be I'm in charge, stop talking, I'm going to get us out of here, and then we're going to regroup. Luke Skywalker and Leia both are leaders, but they both lead in different ways. This is actually kind of funny. I was listening to Rachel Brosnahan explain the differences between Lois and Clark in the new Superman movie. Wow. And the way she explains Lois, the way she explains Clark is incredibly present. And everything is, I need to help right now. Whereas Lois is always trying to be 10 steps ahead in terms of where she's helping. And I think that's an incredible way that you can describe both Leia and Luke, where Luke is like, the living force, it's right here, we need to do it right now, where Leia is making chess piece moves to try and help out everybody around her. Which, shout out to Superman.
It's also a great parallel, which, I mean, people have surely thought of this, it's not the first time that I have, but with like Luke and with Luke's case being kind of like the, you know, oh, he's the guy who blew up the Death Star, oh, becomes this Jedi master. It's also him kind of emulating his father of being the face of the Clone Wars and being the legendary hero and the warrior, and oh my gosh, General Anakin Skywalker, Jedi Knight, like what that's what Luke is. One thing that I would be curious of, and I think especially post Andor, this is something that I'm sure all of y'all crave as well. I think the conversation might be a little bit different if we knew more about what Mon Mothma was doing throughout A New Hope and Empire, because she we get the bookend of like her in Andor, and then we get the stuff in also in like Rebels, and then we get her in Return of the Jedi very briefly, and we're kind of told like, hey, she's with the rebellion for this whole time, but we don't exactly see it fully. And so I would love to see more of that, because I think if we saw more of that with that context in mind, you could argue that maybe Mon Mothma is like the maybe not the face of the rebellion, but she's like the Emperor Palpatine of the rebellion, like later on, right?
Yeah, she's got to be, because of her role in Return of the Jedi, like she's got to have filled some kind of strategic role, like crucial strategic high up role in A New Hope and Empire, which is really cool to think about. Yeah, I would love to see that.
Ashton, when you reached out today and you were like, hey, you guys want to yap about Star Wars, what are we going to be yapping about? And basically, in not so many words, I kind of just said Andor, because I'm super stoked about it. I think after watching Andor, I think I was left with such almost relief in that Star Wars project, not because I didn't think it was going to be great. It was phenomenal. It exceeded pretty much everyone's expectations of like, yeah, this is going to be great, but they tripled down and they over delivered on such a project. But specifically with Andor, the community reception was really great. And I think one thing that is really cool about Andor is after every single episode, people were clamoring for the music that was in it to be released, and people wanted to know about it. And I said earlier, I would love to have watched new Star Wars, at least the new Star Wars coming from Ahsoka, or honestly any Star Wars, through your eyes and with your that musical part of your brain, Ashton. Kind of just, we're going to open the floodgates here. What did you think of the themes plural of Andor season 2?
I mean, it totally exceeded my expectations. Like, I had never heard of Brandon Roberts. I know we had Nicholas Britell for season 1, which was, you know, gorgeous, and like that main theme is just, you know, it's so impactful, and that's just like really, it's just so mind-blowing to me as a musician and composer, like that these other people that aren't John Williams can make such like impactful themes, you know, like Mando, right? Like, okay, like we hear those sounds and those things, and it's like, oh my god. But yeah, so like Nicholas Patel, like he delivered that, and it was great. Yeah, I was absolutely blown away. The transition throughout the season, going from more like electronic, synthetic orchestration to classic orchestration, you know, like with an orchestra, like that progression, it's like a gradient of transition of like synthesis and then orchestra from beginning to end of season 2. And that was really cool. There are just so many gorgeous moments. And also like fun moments, like Niamos, the remix for that. Like, dude, like everyone loves that. The marker of a good soundtrack is when musicians and non-musicians alike are impacted, like really impacted. And this season's music did that really, really quick. One moment that really got me was obviously, spoiler alert, Luthen, whenever Clea, you know, whatever, you know, pulls the plug. I swear, guys, that Luthen's face like relaxes into like a slight smile. He feels what just happened, and he's dying, and he knows like he's dying, but he knows what that means. Just like watching his face relax at that last second, like, frick, dude, that got me. And the music for that was like, oh my god. But then the biggest track, past, present, future, it starts out with like kind of like a war march vibe, you know, and that's perfect for what Cassian is like where his mind is at. Like he's in it now. Like this is it. But then we get like, you know, that beautiful theme, and then, you know, the very last scene, of course, like that will wreck anyone. So I don't know. That's me rambling because I don't know what emotions I was feeling. I was feeling all of them.
Yeah. I know that's like, a very heavy
a buffet of emotion.
Yeah.
Well, so we talked. The very first guest that we had on Determined Focus was Brent, Nerdy Brent, and he is someone who we just love in the community. But something that you have in common with him is that you are also a father, and I'm curious, specifically with that final moment of from the end of episode 9, I believe, to when Bix leaves Cassian, and then the reveal at the very, very end, paralleling the visuals of the Death Star, you know, as Cassian is hugging, like all of that. As a father, like, how did that impact you? Like, what, just the free flow of consciousness from you?
Just like seeing seeing Bix walk through the field, and then all of a sudden you realizing that she's holding a child, and it really did break me. And I'll try not to like break down on camera here,
Yeah.
but it really did break me. And I've been wrestling with why, and I still can't exactly pinpoint it, but the feelings that I got were obviously like sadness, because like, she's so quasi hopeful,
Mhm.
and we all know that, like, Cassian isn't going to make it. But then there's also a serenity and an innocence that's captured, and a peacefulness that's captured with Bix and this kid, on this peaceful field. I think the pardon me. I think the
No,
music
good, man.
changing to the instrumentation that it does, like after the orchestration like builds up and climaxes, and then it cuts out, and then we get like, just like a couple of strings delicately playing with the like kind of like chimey bell things, really reminiscent of the end of Ahsoka.
Mm.
Um, it's just lullaby-esque,
Yep.
which is perfect for what Bix is having to do. And but the lullaby that's playing, it's still the same theme that has been playing for like that war march, as well as what's introduced um when Bix confronts Cassian after the Force healer situation.
Mhm.
Like that's where we first get this kind of theme that we hear in past, present, future, that has evolved. And so we're getting the lullaby version of that. I guess the reason it hits so hard is because it's like that is also a legitimate role in the rebellion, is raising a kid.
Mhm.
You have to lullabyify the war theme,
Yeah.
right? To make it appropriate for the child, but that role is so delicate yet powerful, equally as important. So
Yeah.
I think that's everything that I've been able to organize in my brain so far for
Yeah.
that.
It's very much like I don't even know how I would particularly like process it, especially being a father, which I am not, and I imagine one day when I am and I rewatch Andor, how much more that is going to wreck me. And I believe it is such a testament to the show as a whole and the music and every component that makes Andor work, is the fact that on this show, from the guests that we've had, we are, when we bring up the end of that show, it is 2 for 2 of, because Brent got choked up on the exact same thing.
Mm,
He
yeah.
was like, trying not to get emotional here, and I completely get it, because like it makes me emotional. Like I'm just sobbing, and I don't know if you've seen. I think Luke posted it, and it's from a guy that did it on YouTube. But he put the end. He put the past, present, future on the very end of Rogue One, but then
Yes.
also had the Bix and baby Andor on the planet. And I was like, this, Will, you said this a lot when we talked about Andor as it was coming out. Like, this recontextualizes so much of Rogue One and Andor and just Star Wars as a whole.
Yeah.
Um, it's insane. So I apologize for making you choke up on camera, but also thank you so much for sharing that, because I think you have such an insight into, like you said, that that lullaby. Like I've never even thought about it that way. Um,
Mhm.
that's really powerful, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
I
is.
think I think what is cool to think about with that final scene is, one, going back to Andor season 2 is so interesting because it's the end of so many characters' stories. And obviously, like Cassian, and there are so many characters that go into Rogue One and their story ends there. But like somebody like a Luthen, how you bring up, like, you see his face relax and it almost turns into a smile. The one thing that everybody always thinks about when it comes to Luthen is that sunset that he'll never live to see. But then you think of like throughout history, and anytime anybody thinks of death, those final moments, you think of like going to the light almost
Mhm.
being like a sunset. So he actually got that sunset, and that's why, like, that's an incredible thing
What's
to think
what
about.
it's also it's the
Yeah.
true like nail in the coffin, literally, of like the rebellion's flown away. There's a whole galaxy out there waiting to discuss you, you know, like
And he had
whatever
such a
happens now.
big part
Yep.
in it that now it finally works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, just knowing that he recognized what is going on and like had that closure of like, oh, like Clea made it. Like, all
Yeah.
right,
Yep.
like that was just so endlessly fulfilling, like in a really sad way.
Ashton, do you have like a top theme or a top moment mixed with a theme from the second season of Andor that is like at the top of your list?
I do actually. And what's crazy is that it's not even on the soundtrack, which is such a bummer. It's
No way.
Whoa.
for real, guys. Like, unless like if anyone can find it, please let me know. Maybe I've just like been too lazy with my scrubbing like through tracks, but like I swear I cannot find it
Huh.
on the soundtracks. But
Uh-huh.
it is the Force healer moment when she places her hand on his shoulder. Like that's not in the Force healer track, like the track titled "The Force Healer."
Really?
Unless
Wow.
I'm crazy, like I cannot find it.
That's
Um,
super interesting.
it is. But that and it sucks because like that is my favorite moment
Yeah.
musically. I don't know, maybe one of my favorite moments like in the show, but definitely musically. I do have the clip. It's so hard to hear the music that's playing. It's nothing like strong or obvious. It's very um atmospheric what's playing, but it definitely like headphones recommended to anyone listening to this. Here's the scene with the force healer.
May I?
All right, so just right off the bat, here are the notes that are playing. Like here's the harmonic atmospheric space that we're in.
May I?
This is me playing piano over it. All right, so we're in. It's a minor key. Um, yeah. I guess nothing else to say there. It's just like a minor space that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
and then as she starts to raise her hand, we get this second chord. And then, you guys, when she places her hand on his shoulder, you'll hear the chord change. And we
No
get
way.
for real, guys. And in like in there, I don't know if you could hear, but like we hear all these like whispers and stuff, like
Yep.
and dude, but like so we can talk about that a little bit more, but like just that chord progression, like that harmonic space as she's approaching, and then and then the chord changes when she lifts her hand, and then when it lands on his shoulder, this is the chord progression. Like that is just unbelievably gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
it's so gorgeous, and
Yeah.
I cannot find this on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Um, but like that that moment, just from a storytelling perspective, like coming from Andor, where
Mm-hmm.
we've had like just like this boots on the ground civilian, like non-force user point of view, to get this, like, the like ethos of Star Wars, like the force, to get that, just a glimpse of it here, in this Ender story. Like, this music is just so moving to me to accompany this scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, going from like the minor space to when she puts her hand on his shoulder, it lands on a beautiful major 7 chord, which you don't have to know like what that means music theory wise, but we all know the feeling of what that feels like to land on a major 7 chord. Like, it's beautiful, but there's also like, it's not just a major chord, like ta-da, it's not just that. Like, there is like emotion and bittersweetness in there, and like there's just it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
So that is such a gorgeous moment. But then yeah, also, so yeah, like we have the whispering and stuff, which is very much, I mean, so cool. Like the force, like what is she hearing? And maybe that's all she can hear is like just these indescript whispers, but like it's the force, man. Like,
Yeah.
everything that has like led up to this moment, like, in from the future too, like speaking in a way, which she then talks about. So in the next section, we get this playing.
That feeling.
All right, so it kind of, that's after she pulls her hand away and like starts talking. Those strings that are playing, this is what the strings are playing, right? And what's really cool about this is that technique that's, oh my gosh, it's a tremolo technique, right? So the strings are like doing this like really fast, and this is so cool because she's still talking about the force, like we're with this force healer. These strings playing a tremolo technique, we all know and love from this. Right? Like, you guys, it's all there, and it's so incredible.
Bro.
And
That just, bro,
dude,
that roller coaster, that is that. So that moment in A New Hope, that like little,
right,
that ambiance, right? Because at this point we've not really experienced the Force in A New Hope, and much like Andor, he's not really experienced that either. So to
right.
have that, that you said, is it tremolo? Is that how you say it?
Tremolo.
Tremolo. Okay. To have that and that, like, that synergy. Oh
Dude,
my god, dude.
I know. It
Wow.
is absolutely mind-blowing in the best way. And so, yeah, like, that whole interaction, like, it's so hard to hear if you're not, like, wearing headphones and, like,
Yeah.
have the volume up. But, like, all of that, I really I need that music, like, just the music, please. I cannot find it. So anyway, there's that. Um, After this, though, like, it gets even better, guys. After this, um, as when Cassian's spooked and they're back at the hut and Bix confronts him, we get this going on.
She called you a messenger. I've had dreams like that.
Why are you doing?
So, and then I like play just like the strings of like the harmonic space again, just like kind of trying to isolate it. This track is on the soundtrack. This one is called Messenger on the album. But yeah, these are the notes that are playing there. But listen to this next part, especially when paired with Bix's dialogue.
I know you felt something. That's why you're so upset.
Did you hear that?
Yep. Yeah. Yep. I
I
heard
know
it.
she says, "I know you felt something." Like
Yeah.
the first phrase of the Force theme, you
Yep.
guys. Like, when I tell you I just started bawling, like, whenever I was
Oh,
listening to all of this stuff, like, it was just so cool. And,
dude.
I know. Um,
Dang
and
it!
and, like and it's really cool because, like, it's a subtle it's just, like, masterfully subtle, all of this, right? They don't obviously play the rest of the Force theme. It's just that opening
Mhm,
phrase,
mhm.
and then they play, the rest of the theme kinda goes like this.
Let it in.
And the rest of that track is just gorgeous. Like,
Mhm,
it's this kind of like this new theme, which is incorporated in the past, present, future track,
mhm.
which is really cool. Yeah,
Bro,
that's
Dude,
that's my
you're a
favorite.
wizard, man. Like
yeah,
that
that
is
is
like
insane.
well, because Will, that was already like your favorite moment,
That
maybe
is
in
that is
season
my
two.
that is my favorite moment in all of Andor.
Yeah.
In the entire show, that is my favorite moment. And thank you, one, for putting the work in
Yes.
to go splice that up and go piece piece by piece of all of that, and to
Mhm.
explain to us plebeians why we care about it so much. Because like I said, uh I my heart understands and my soul understands why it's important, but for you to then explain to me why my heart feels that way is
Right.
extremely cool. I think truly what my favorite part about all of that is specifically everything that's hidden inside of there. Because when the
Mhm.
force healer is speaking to Cassian, and she thanks him for allowing her to feel that again with the force, and she even says the thing about, and some, it even works on occasion, it even works. Like, she's on the side of, I know this might all just be a bunch of mumbo jumbo,
Mhm.
and occasionally it works, but for that, in that moment, her to reach out and touch Cassian, and then it all kind of flooding through there, it is the exact explanation of the force to where Luke says, uh when Luke is explaining, and he says, it's like a door. Some people's door is more open than others. Or like how Sam Witwer explains Force Ghosts to, it's the more open you are, the more it will present itself to you. And in that moment, Cassian is so shut off to
Mhm.
not believing it, to then, to your point earlier, get towards the end of that show, and just the orchestration of it all coming to a full head, to be
Yes.
so triumphant at the end, because Cassian truly believes in that hope, to where he is saying, and the rebellion is saying, may the force be with you, is so beautiful and so subtle and so beautiful because of its subtlety, that
Yes.
I that just made me, I already loved that scene. I will never not be able to think about that now when I think of that
Yeah.
scene. That is
I know.
so cool.
It's
That's so
it's
cool.
it's just so cool, and truly, like, when you hear the, like, harmonic shift from, like, the minor thing to when it never, like, doesn't give me chills. Like, when she
Yeah.
puts her hand on his shoulder, and, like, when you, like, hear that chord change, and how beautiful and, like, deep, and it's just, like, so full of emotion, and it's just for, like, a split second, you know? Yeah, that is absolutely my favorite, um, sequence.
Yeah,
So,
So
it is gorgeous. And I was thinking today, I am such a nerd when it comes to Star Wars, mainly because in what I think is a really cool way, and when I think of all the other Star Wars fans that we get to interact with, and even the Star Wars fans we don't, but when we're at a convention or whatever it is, Star Wars fans are such nerds for stuff like this because of their passion. I was listening to the audiobook for Shadows of the Sith. There's a point at the end of an earlier chapter where Lando, it's about Lando and Luke Skywalker. Spoiler alert for the book. Where Lando is going off to go find Luke. He doesn't say Luke's name, but in the audiobook it starts playing that theme of him just being able to say, he's like, I've got to go out and find an old friend. And then that I was in tears in the middle of Denver traffic driving home at 3:00. It means so much to me, those moments, and I am such a sucker for when they pull in smaller themes that I recognize that make you think of other characters because of the phenomenal, magical, illustrious, whatever you want to call him, beautiful bald man that is John Williams. But like it is so incredible, and I thank you for gifting us that, because that was so cool.
And add that to the list of tracks that are, I mean, there's a lot of like things that are not on the official Star Wars soundtrack. Like YouTube Premium is my goat right now, because there's so much stuff that's like not on streaming services. One of my, I remember I messaged Ashton about this. It was, Will, you're gonna love it. It was Return of the Jedi, but it's the moment when I was listening to a track and I was like, man, this is one of my favorite tracks. And what it always resonated in my mind was two moments. One, and these are not in the movies, but I always heard this iteration of the Force theme when Starkiller in The Force Unleashed 1 goes to the hut on Kashyyyk, and he's just like, I'm sorry, my son, and kind of his like Force presence goes away. And the other one was the opening for one of the Old Republic trailers, and I'm like, where is this iteration of the Force theme? I'm like, is this Revenge of the Sith? I don't remember this. It sounds familiar. And then I tracked it down and I found it, and it is one of now my favorite moments. And I mean, it's already one of my favorite moments, but it's when Luke is talking to sickly Yoda in Return of the Jedi, and he's like, is Vader my father? And then there's this kind of pause, and he's like, your father is. And it plays this kind of haunting version of the Force theme. Like it's, I truly, I don't know how to describe it. Ashton, I'd love to see you break it down, but it's how I would describe it is almost if it was in the same key as the Imperial March, but it's the Force theme. And it's the kind of this drawn out version. And I was like, I don't remember the name of the specific track, but it's in the expanded full version of the Return of the Jedi soundtrack. And then back a long time ago when we had Ashton on the Mortis FM podcast, Cole brought up one of his favorite unlisted tracks, which is the track that plays when Palpatine reveals himself as a Sith Lord, which is also just an incredible track. And I believe you did dissect it eventually at some point.
I think I did like either 2 or 3. I had to like split it up into like 2 or 3 videos because there's so much going on in that track. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So some of the best Star Wars tracks are not officially in the 45-minute to an hour long official release that's on streaming. So go do. Hey, listen, if you're, this is a PSA to people who love Star Wars. Like, it's really fun to go back and watch Star Wars and then listen to a track and be like, and to go down that rabbit hole and find it in like this niche little corner of the, like it's, and so anyway, when dude, that like parallel to A New Hope, I'm like,
dude,
oh my gosh, that's so good.
I know.
It kind of leads us into our next our next thing, which is we're gonna do a little bit of a draft. This is going to be we're only going to do 3 apiece. Like I said, Ashton, you're going to go first. We're going to be doing the Star Wars themes draft. Ashton. And actually, before we do anything else, Grayson, can you flip that coin? Because I want to know where we go before any of us speak any further. I want to know our placement.
Okay, this is heads. This is tails. Will call it.
Tails never fails.
Bam, you got it.
Woo! Okay, all right. I'll go first.
Yes, sir.
the funeral theme from the prequels.
The like Qui-Gon and then like Padme. Yeah.
Always
Yeah.
two there are.
The track on the like streamable album is the High Council meeting and Qui-Gon's funeral. So yeah,
Gotcha.
just Qui-Gon's funeral. Which, by the way, like side note, one beautiful iteration of the funeral theme that we don't have on the streamable soundtracks is during Padme's actual funeral, like when we see the processional, and it's instead of like the shouting choir voices, it's like really subdued choir voices and like a brass chorale. It's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
I wish it was streamable.
Will, that means you're up next, buddy.
My number one pick is Leia's theme. I can't not have it on my list. That is the one that if anybody else was to pick it, I would be so upset. It is at my wedding, what my mother, father, and I walked down the aisle to our seats with. That's what I chose. Leia's theme is kind of like how Luke and Ahsoka are my two favorite characters in Star Wars, and you can flip a coin and decide them. But that's how I feel about the Force theme and Leia's theme. Anytime that theme plays, it's just wow. Yeah, I can't not have it on my list. Leia's theme is my number one.
I'm not going to take this as my number one because I don't think y'all are going to take it. So I want to secure my number one spot. But I do think I will be choosing Yoda's theme.
Oh,
one.
Yoda's theme.
Yoda's
it's
theme.
not fair.
I'm sorry. It's just it is other than that and one other theme, it is one that will always instill me with such hope and joy and
Yes.
whimsical nature. And
Yep.
I will always have a soft spot for that theme because I remember so back in college, I would listen to a lot of Star Wars soundtracks while studying. Like I would just go through them. Just like I'd be like, hey, what do I want to do? Like I remember during finals, just like listening to Revenge of the Sith soundtrack like over and over and over again. And I remember I was studying for whatever in my dorm, and I just was listening to Empire Strikes Back. And Yoda's theme was playing, and I was like, I just started getting emotional. Like it was just like out of nowhere. And this was like, I don't know if this was after Last Jedi had come out or not. But I remember I screenshotted it and I sent it to Cole, and he was like, dude, you have to be kidding me. And he was listening to it at the exact same time, unprompted.
Wow.
And I was like, the chances of that happening are literally are just so slim to none. And so I will always think of that theme. I don't know. Yoda's theme is so good.
Specifically on the soundtrack that you are looking at, what is the title of? Is it called Yoda's theme?
So I actually was looking at a different score, but I'm looking at, I believe it in Empire Strikes Back. It is just Yoda's theme, right?
Okay.
Let me double check.
Yes.
The internet's being slow.
It is just called Yoda's theme on the album.
Yeah, we're going back to Ashton.
Perfect.
Oh, thank goodness, because I don't want anyone to take my next one, which is Han and Leia's theme.
Oh, dude.
Wow.
There's just something about Han and Leia's theme. The bass note, like in Han and Leia's theme, the bass note kind of like stays the same while the harmony changes over top. And this is a technique that John Williams uses like all the time. It's so effective, but that is like something that really makes Han and Leia's theme like just so nasty and like beautiful. I guess like my favorite time that it plays is when Han is about to be frozen in carbonite, and the whole like "I love you, I know." I did a breakdown video of it, so I'll send it to you guys if you haven't seen it. But the way that John Williams orchestrates their theme during that scene, it's so crazy.
Okay. The reason I asked you, Grayson, what that theme was called is because I have a very specific Yoda moment that has its own theme from the Empire Strikes Back soundtrack, and it is specifically Yoda raises the ship.
Yeah, Yoda in the Force.
Yeah. It is that block of Yoda raises the ship that is like
peak.
Doesn't it play also on Rise of Skywalker when Luke lifts it?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think so.
I believe so. Yeah, but that like The whole portion of that scene, a lot of the music is strange and mysterious, and it's a little jarring at moments before, because it's just like Luke. It's hard, it's crass. He's not doing it. He doesn't believe, and then it just shifts right into Yoda, and that the twinkling that happens within there when that X-wing is lifted is yeah, that is it's like a mix of Yodas and then the Force theme, and there's parts of each, and it's just like it is a tear jerker,
Yes.
is what I will call it. Much like Leia's. I would say most of the themes on my list in terms of like my top 10. There's a lot that I love. Like obviously Duel of the Fates, Battle of the Heroes, like those
Yeah.
those where you're like watching but you're glued to the screen because they're action set pieces and they're set pieces themselves being that they're themes. But like I consider those differently because I'm not like in tears watching those. I'm glued to the screen like this, where I'm like, oh my gosh, it's happening. It's all happening right now. But then when
Right.
like in a moment when John Williams is making anything twinkle, it's
Dude.
gosh.
Game over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well that leads me into my second pick, which I am going to need some help picking because it's not explicitly labeled in A New Hope and I always struggle to find it. I do think it might be in the track Inner City, but I'm not entirely sure. It is the
Interesting.
snippet of the Force theme where it's the
Yeah.
Oh,
those
yeah,
little
yeah.
and it's that very soft. I think it's literally just it might just be one French horn or even one trumpet just playing, and it's like one of the earliest times you hear the Force theme because I don't even think Binary Sunset happens at that point. Maybe it does already, but it's I believe it plays either when Ben first shows up or when he is talking about the Force itself.
Mm.
And so now I'm getting upset because I don't know the name of the specific track, but it is one that I it is such a
don't
mystical
know.
version. I'm gonna figure this out real quick. I I want to
Yeah,
say it plays.
it's worth figuring out.
Yeah, I don't know.
I do think it's like in the middle of Inner City, but it could be in.
Or what is happening in the scene when that's playing?
Oh! Come on, internet. What are we doing right now?
Because I usually have to backtrack and find the scene first and then find the piece from the scene
See,
that
that's
I'm
the thing is
watching.
I'm kind of mixing it up in my mind where I don't know if it's when Ben first shows up or if it's when they're in his house and he's talking about the Force.
Hello there.
So Inner City at 1 minute and 40 seconds
Yep.
is when that's the whole like tremolo thing with the oboe and stuff.
Yep.
And that plays whenever Luke Skywalker is like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, do you know him? And
Yep.
Obi-Wan's like like you just like
Now
you
that's
see,
a name I have not heard in a long time.
and that's when that plays
it.
right there.
Yep. Okay, that's
Awesome.
because I think it plays something similar as well when they're in his house, but I don't lately I've been on such a I love how the Force is introduced in A New Hope and truly why it makes it such a perfect movie and why I still think it is like absolutely the first Star Wars movie you should show to someone who's never seen Star Wars because it is Star Wars through and through. And it just feels so like I can't even put it really to proper words. Like I said, it's so mystical and it has so much ambiance to it and so much intrigue and curiosity. And I think it informs so much about Luke wanting to know more and Ben being reserved to tell it, but also that, like you said, John Williams, whenever he does anything that's twinkling, and that's what that feels like. And it's just such a subdued yet beautiful version of the Force theme because we hear the Force theme so much in so many epic triumphant ways, and I love that. But I love that it's just it is the tiny little spark of the Force that's in there and truly what sets Luke on the journey to becoming a Jedi, and we recently read the Revenge of the Sith novelization, and like Obi-Wan as a character, and specifically him turning into Old Ben, is just has just skyrocketed for me. As I mean, I've always loved Obi-Wan, but now I will, anytime he is wandering from the desert with that pseudo crate dragon roar and scaring off the Jawas and rescuing Luke, I'm just like, oh my god, dude, so much has been building up to this. Like, this is insane. So yeah, I don't even know what you would call it. We can just say it's just inner city, but I don't know if you would call it, I don't know what you would call it. But that's what I'm picking.
The Force theme portion of Inner City.
Yeah.
So what's really cool is that in the score, the cue for that is titled Obi-Wan Kenobi.
See?
There you go.
There you go.
I didn't know that. That's awesome. So I've got Yoda and Obi-Wan.
There you go.
There you go.
Back to Ashton.
Is this his third pick?
Yeah, this is number 3.
This is number 3. I've been agonizing over it this whole time. So does it have to be a theme, or can it be a track?
I would say either.
Yeah, I'm not gonna put a label on it.
Yeah.
Now, what if a track has several themes in it? Like, that's cheating.
I would say
Right?
that's like if you're picking your favorite type of pizza, that's like you picking a supreme because it has all the toppings, but that is okay if that is what you would like to go with.
All right, so end credits of, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
All right then. My third pick is the track Anakin is Free. And it's not on the streamable album. It's only on the like the blue Darth Maul face, like extended version of the Cantonese. Anakin is Free. That track, I cry every time.
Wow.
And it's really cool because it actually starts with Qui-Gon Jinn's theme, which is really cool.
I was waiting for someone to mention Qui-Gon's theme, dude.
Right. And but then there's this whole, like throughout the track Anakin is Free, we get Anakin's theme, but it's in a minor tonality. It's one of the first iterations of his theme in minor that we hear, which is crucial, for Anakin's arc. Like the first decay of his theme, if you will. And but the main part that gets me every time is whenever Anakin is outside saying bye to Shmi, and he turns around and like runs back to her, and oh man, whenever he musters up as much courage as he has to say, "I will come back and free you, Mom, I promise." Like that whole interaction, it's Shmi's theme playing, except for that line, the music is interrupted with this majestically, quietly heroic brass chorale, and it's so gorgeous and so brave, and it gets me every time.
Yep.
So
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then of course, like at the end of that, we have a really epic iteration of the Force theme, but yeah, that particular like Shmi's theme and Anakin's bravery and like that musical dialogue, that makes me choose Anakin is Free.
Ashton, I could listen to soundtracks and themes with you just on the other end going, and then here's this, and this is here. I could listen to that all day.
I need Ashton and David Collins to give the biggest dap up of all time, and I could listen to like 17,000 hours of just y'all going back and forth and being like, and here's this.
My third pick, I am between two, but I'm going to lean towards the other because right now I have listened to it every day for the last 2 weeks. Rey's theme.
Oh yeah. Solid.
Rey's theme. I am on a Ray's theme kick right now. I listen to it while I'm in the shower. It is so good. And like,
Oh man.
hearing it for the first time in The Force Awakens, it was like, oh, we're back in Star Wars. Like
Mhm.
I am immersed again. We are here. We are back. Thank you, John Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, that's my number 3 is Ray's theme. So I've got my 3. Grayson, you're up.
God, I'm so tempted, but by also leaning one way or the other. And one is really underrated, bro. If we get into like trailers and like trailer soundtracks and
Oh,
stuff, like this is kind of connecting to my point. I mean, listen. I have the last choice, so I can tell y'all which ones I'm leaning towards. But before I do that, this might be my favorite trailer in all of Star Wars, and it's the first. Actually, it might be the second teaser trailer for The Force Awakens, and it's the one that opens with the Star Destroyer in the dunes, and it's
yep,
got Luke's voice,
Yeah,
and he's just like, "The Force is strong in my family.
yep.
My father
yeah,
has it. I have it." And it's you think he's about to say you have that power too, but then it's just my sister has it. You have that power too, and it's like, and it's then it goes into the Force theme, and then it's just like this like epic triumphant, and then it cuts to the very end, and it's like, Chewie, we're home, and it's like
yeah.
December 2015. That's coming up on 10 years, which is insane, by the way. Oh my
That's
god.
not right.
Wild.
That's
That
not
is
right.
that does not I oh my gosh. So not that little monologue from Luke is one of my favorites. Um so I'm leaning towards two directions. One is a lot more, I would say, dark side adjacent, and it informs a lot about Anakin, and that's Anakin's dark deeds. I
Mm,
love that track so much,
Yeah.
especially towards the end of the bum 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 bum
yeah,
bum 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 bum. Like, oh, it's so good.
yeah.
The other way I'm leaning is Luke and Leia's theme from Return of the
Ooh.
Jedi, which is supremely underrated. And
Beautiful,
I
beautiful.
want to say it plays as well in Rise of Skywalker when it shows their flashback, but I'm not entirely certain.
Does
Um
that play when he kisses Leia on the head in Last Jedi?
uh
Oh
I don't know if
shoot,
it plays that or if it plays Leia's theme. It
I don't
might play
remember either.
both.
I
But
don't
that
know.
I know for sure that theme plays when they're on Endor before Luke leaves to surrender
Yes,
to,
absolutely.
and that is one of my favorite moments in Return of the Jedi. Um, act on instinct, act on instinct. I'm gonna go Luke and Leia. I'm gonna go Luke and Leia. Ashton, you might be the only other person who is as big of a Kylo Ren Ben Solo fan as I am. And there's a question that's kind of debated a lot in the community of I'm gonna it's a two-part question, so I'll tee up the first part of the question. Do you think it was the right choice for Ben Solo to have been redeemed? And I'm not going to give my opinion. I want to hear yours first because I have very strong thoughts on this, but I'm curious of yours.
I do remember originally, really, I don't know if I was just like in an angsty phase or what. I was really wanting Kylo to just, after what he did to Han,
Yeah.
and like, I
Yeah.
really was wanting, just, I don't know, something darker there. However, the hesitation that was planted in the Last Jedi and stuff, like, he's not the one who, shoots the missiles and stuff, and
Yep.
like all of that, kind of planting the seeds for that and feeling the pull, the inevitable pull to the light. I really, really love Ben Solo in The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
That is, I think, my favorite part of the sequels is seeing him wield that blue lightsaber,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the redemption. I
Yep.
really do. The only shame is that it doesn't last very long.
Yep.
Well,
It's,
that
yeah.
leads me into the second part of that question, and before I get ahead to it, yeah, I completely agree with you. I think so much of the Star Wars story is redemption, and I think
Right.
maybe at time of the Force Awakens, I've been like, oh man, there's no going back for this guy. But then you go to Revenge of the Sith, and you're like, wait, this Anakin guy
Exactly.
did like way worse stuff than Kylo did. Not to say that Kylo is like indefensible, because he's certainly not. But
Right.
yeah, you get that conflict of he's never wants to kill Rey. He's always like that's
Mhm.
something that he's never like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. He's always trying to find some way around it, and he's that hesitation towards his mother, especially towards pulling the trigger literally on that, and then of course to the debate and the pull to the light, especially with the triggering of that force memory with Han triggered by Leia. I'm just like I'm like, you can't. I don't know. Like I feel like ending his story. If Darth Vader can be redeemed, I think Kylo
Mhm.
Ren can.
Yep.
And I think what makes him so
Totally agree.
compelling is because people are like, oh well, Kylo Ren is just like Darth Vader. I'm like, he's not. He's a much different character, and that constant tug back and forth makes him so compelling.
Yeah.
So yeah, then that leads me into the question of, do you think he should have lived, or do you would you prefer him to have lived? Like, what if there was the outcome of that character? That's also a hot topic.
Yeah, I absolutely 1000% prefer if he would have lived.
That is something that I lean towards that way, or some way of wanting him to be able to come back. To be honest, if they did the World Between Worlds, if they pulled an Ahsoka thing, I wouldn't be mad. We don't see his Force ghost at the end of Rise of Skywalker, so that kind of makes me think of like, could they do something? The thing that I have a hard time rationalizing is and Will and I have talked about this a lot, of if he did live, what would that have looked like? Because
Yeah.
that's always the thing with
Yeah.
Vader as well. They're like, oh, if Vader lived, like, oh, he would have been back to the Jedi. I'm like, would he have? He would
He
have
would
been
have
put in a
immediately been put in prison.
yeah. If yeah, like, and so the same thing goes with Ben, where yes, Ben had not fallen to the dark side nearly as long, but he was a corroborator in the First Order insurgency and the destruction of Hosnian Prime, and he did kill Han Solo and all of this stuff. So, in your mind, if
Mhm.
he had lived, what would that have looked like?
Yeah, two avenues. One would be, I'm sure there's a way that he could atone for that in the eyes of the New Republic and the Resistance. The second avenue I can think of that would be, I don't know, kind of interesting, is Ray and Ben. Obviously, they are a dyad. They are
Mhm.
a power couple, and Ray just waltzing out of this battle where so many people like died with Ben of all people. Like that was just a slap in the face betrayal kind of
Yep.
situation. And it would be interesting if Ray and Ben, as their power couple dyad selves, have to kind of distance themselves from the New Republic and the
Yeah.
Resistance, and but still, like, do their use their forces for good, but it's like in
Yeah.
a banished, like, exiled way. I
Yep.
think that could be really cool.
Look, I would love to see Ben Solo come back. I think Ben Solo and Kylo Ren is my favorite part of the sequels. Like the through line of
Yeah.
Kylo's journey is my favorite part of the sequels by a landslide. And seeing him come back and come back to the light as Ben Solo, like, I don't have a lot of stuff that highlights the sequels, but I do have the Ben Solo doing the shrug Funko Pop of him
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the legacy lightsaber. I will say though, for the entirety of the sequels, for Ben to be emulating his grandfather in Darth Vader, and then at the end reconcile and come to the light to defeat the Emperor in the same way while holding his grandfather's lightsaber
Yes.
is just an awesome bookend to that character, and such a flip of, I've wanted to be my grandfather this whole time and now I am him, the real him. Like,
Mhm.
but also with
It's
a little
just-
bit of my father in there too.
yep, yep.
Of Han Solo, of him with the blaster pistol, and like
Yeah.
that's that of like that hybrid of like Anakin Han. I'm like,
And,
I
and
need
getting
more.
and getting to defeat the Emperor like Luke did, like
Mhm.
and just like his uncle, his master, who trained him that whole time. Like there's so much goodness in that sacrifice from Ben Solo, and then having to completely give himself to bring Rey back. Like obviously, it's cool, and it makes sense thematically when you're looking at Star Wars. It's just a thing of like if like all of Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi happened in The Last Jedi and the third movie was just Ben Solo as Ben Solo and then he died at the end, I'd be like, all right, at least we got a full movie of Ben Solo. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like he's so cool
Yeah.
that like Anakin is cool, that like we got obviously all of the prequels and then the Clone Wars, and then you see Anakin return in Return of the Jedi when Vader comes back to the light, and you're like, okay, Anakin's back, cool. And I know how Anakin is, but for Ben Solo, it's like, oh, he's back, but I want more.
Yeah,
And I should want more.
even if that means getting more of him when he's younger,
Yeah.
as a Padawan too
Yes.
on Luke's temple. Like you miss so much of his story that I'm like,
Shout out
Right.
again to Shadows of the Sith.
yeah, I do. It's real good. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you answering that, because that was something that I've been on my mind, and I'm like, you know what, Ashton probably has some thoughts on this.
Yeah.
The last one, which is probably is kind of a loaded question, but I'm gonna let you rip off the hip here. What's your dream Star Wars project, man?
Oh wow.
Movie, TV show, game, whatever.
I really want to see Mara Jade, and I really want to see the
Yep.
Yuuzhan Vong.
Yeah.
So
two wonderful answers. Two wonderful
Yeah.
answers.
Like,
Ashton, were you a New Jedi Order fan growing up? Was that like something that like books you picked up and stuff?
you guys, I in like 3rd and 4th grade, that's
Yeah.
all I was reading. It was either that or like astronomy books.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Literally, I was like we all, I'm sure, have gone through like a being bullied phase. That's all I was reading was New Jedi Order. This is so cool. I actually started writing my own book in 4th grade.
No
That
way.
was a New Jedi Order book, because I didn't have all of them. I only had the first 3, and I
Mhm.
just read them over and over and over, and I didn't know that there were more.
Yeah.
Or just like didn't I don't know, just like didn't know the story. But anyway, I started writing my own like New Jedi Order book, and another book that I loved was and so I in my story I combined those 2 stories, and it starts off with this mission. It's Jason and Jaina Solo. Or no, I think it's all 3 of them. I think it's Anakin, Jason, and Jaina. Like just on this planet that there were reports of Yuuzhan Vong activity, and they're like trying to figure it out, but they don't see anything. And it turns out they're on Zanima Sekat, which is the rogue planet, and which is known for like its organic life and making ships out of organic matter and stuff. And the Yuuzhan Vong like taking it over, and like it's like it turns out to be this huge like base or whatever. Well, it turns out like that is literally a story. Like I was in Barnes and Noble one day reading the back of one of the later New Jedi Order books,
Uh-huh.
and I'm like reading the back of it, reading the synopsis of my story that I was writing, with Zanima Sekat
way.
being used as like a hyper, like basically Death Star 5.0, and I was so devastated reading that.
Oh
So-
no.
Anyway, I loved those, and I would love to see that like timeline.
We've been chatting for quite a while about Star Wars. This question I like to ask all guests. It is my favorite question to ask, not even just guests, but Star Wars fans in general. It can be as long as you want. It can be as short as you want. The floor is truly yours, but simple enough. Why do you love Star Wars?
Man, it's not a simple answer. I love, and there's so many things. So there's so many rabbit holes I could go down for the reasons why I love Star Wars. Like obviously musically, like think of all of the beautiful music the beautiful themes and stuff that we've gotten because Star Wars exists, and and also just like the springboard that Star Wars was for John Williams, who went on to make, all these other franchises soundtracks and, that have impacted globally, everyone, like emotionally. Like that's so cool. But I guess like of all of the things, the thing that I love most about Star Wars, and I feel like this is a common answer, is the community aspect of it. Just like this, like hanging out with you guys. Like this is so awesome, and just like being able to know so many people that I would have never known if it weren't for Star Wars, and like having grown up as such a nerdy kid, and like the outcastness that comes with that, but then whenever you like notice someone is also a Star Wars fan, it's like, in just the friendships that have been made and that are still being made, like I think that's the most important thing for me. Especially, in the world we live in, like that's of utmost importance.
Well, I always say there's no wrong answer, but that was certainly the right answer. Um, Ashton, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy, busy, busy schedule to talk with us a little bit about Star Wars. It is truly my one of my favorite things in the world to see when you have released any of your talent into the void that is the internet. When I see Ashton's posted, just because one of my favorite things about Star Wars is that every time you watch it, you learn something new about it. And when
Yeah.
I see what you know about Star Wars, there is an entire section of the library that I've never been in when it comes to Star Wars and the Star Wars archive. So I appreciate you giving us the key and opening the door every once in a while to let us in with your content, because it is
Yeah.
truly special and it is needed in the galaxy, and also just for being a really great dude. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, cue imposter syndrome. Um, dude, it's been really fulfilling. Like I, I had bothered everyone I knew already of these like Easter eggs and things that I was loving about the Star Wars soundtrack. So I started, to try to make like videos, and I never expected like so many people to enjoy them, and then to like meet people like you guys, and like it's been really fulfilling. But the biggest thing, I guess, is like, well, I guess two things. One is to be able to explain music, but like the storytelling behind the music in a way that non-musicians can grasp, like trying to present it in a way that's digestible to the non-musician, because we all understand music, even if we don't understand like music theory, like we all feel music, which is why we love the soundtracks. And so to be able to like break that stuff down in a way that's digestible, like that's really fulfilling. But then also, just like you said, like to be able to experience Star Wars in a new way, like appreciate Star Wars even more than you already did, to be able to do something like that is so fun and like so fulfilling. Like when we all watched Revenge of the Sith for the first time, like to be able to capture that feeling again, like when you realize something about the soundtrack that the soundtrack is saying, and you're able to capture that feeling again of like experiencing something like Revenge of the Sith for the first time.
Yeah.
That's so special. Like that
Yeah.
feeling is so special. Yeah, it's been a blast.
Also, almost forgot before we leave, your question for the next guest.
Ooh, okay. All right. Yeah. Here's my question. If you could be any character in the Star Wars galaxy, who would you be? And it can be a character that's already, that's already in universe, or it can be like a new character. Like who would you want to be in the Star Wars galaxy?
That is a phenomenal question.
I love that.
Please make sure to go follow Ashton on all platforms. We have all of that linked below. And if you want some Determined Focus merch, you should maybe go buy some. I got this really cool kind of X-Wing inspired shirt. Please, if you haven't already, go check out some of our other episodes, whether live or pre-recorded. The last episode we did was with Luke's lightsabers, and before that was with Nerdy Brent, and we have plenty more to come. May the Force be with you, and always remember, your focus determines your reality. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Always remember.